Okay, let's play a game. If you had to guess right now, the single most dangerous thing you probably eat every day, and I mean really dangerous, like class A carcinogen dangerous. It's not cigarettes, it's not booze. It's probably even worse than that high fructose corn syrup everyone loves to hate. What pops into your head? Maybe some kind of heavy metal or like a super sketchy pesticide. Well, here's the kicker. The thing we're talking about today, it's so sneaky, it doesn't even show up on the ingredients list. Nope. It's a chemical byproduct, a toxic little oopsie made during food processing, and chances are it's in something like 40% of the food you eat. So today we are doing a deep dive into this invisible menace of processed food, acrylamide. We're going to figure out how it gets made, why it's supposedly so bad for you, and crucially, how to maybe, just maybe, avoid it.
That distinction you made right at the start is so important. Acrylamide isn't added. You don't scoop it in like sugar. You create it. Usually, when perfectly normal ingredients get processed, well, let's say under intense conditions, and that's exactly why most people have never even heard of it, right? It flies completely under the radar.
Yeah, invisible is right, but when you actually look at its rap sheet, it's kind of terrifying. This isn't some minor annoyance.
Oh, it's definitely not messing around.
Yeah.
We're talking validation from multiple international cancer agencies, even the EPA. It's officially classed as a probable human carcinogen, Class A, which basically means, yeah, it's believed to cause cancer by messing with your cells.
Okay, so cancer risk, check. Anything else on the list?
Afraid so.
Yeah.
It's also known to be a potent neurotoxin, so it directly impacts your nervous system, your brain function. Not great. And just to round it out, it also causes damage to reproductive organs.
Wow. Okay, so carcinogen, neurotoxin, and reproductive damage. That's quite the trifecta.
It really is. You put those together, and you're looking at something that can cause pretty systemic harm.
All right, if we want to fight this thing, we need the battle plan. What's the recipe for this disaster? Like, what specific kitchen chaos makes this stuff?
Okay, so basically you need three things happening at the same time. First, a specific kind of protein building block. It's an amino acid called asparagine. Very common. You find it in loads of starchy foods like corn, wheat, rice, potatoes, soy.
The usual suspects in processed food, basically.
Pretty much. Second, you need to combine that asparagine with a refined sugar. And this part's key. It has to be refined stuff like glucose dextrose, glucose syrup, maltodextrin.
Hold on, wait. So you're saying if I made, I don't know, potato chips, but I used regular table sugar or honey?
Then you wouldn't get this specific reaction, or at least not nearly as much. The research points pretty clearly to those highly refined, simple sugars being the necessary partner for the asparagine. Natural sugars like honey or cane sugar just don't seem to participate in the same way.
That's wild. Okay, so asparagine, refined sugar. What's ingredient number 3?
Heat. Specifically high heat.
Right.
Once you get things above roughly 285 degrees Fahrenheit, that's 120 Celsius, that's the trigger. That's the temperature where this whole unfortunate chemical reaction really kicks into gear.
Okay, 285 degrees. And I read somewhere this whole process has a name, right? Something. Maillard.
The Maillard reaction, yes. And it's funny because usually chefs love the Maillard reaction. It's what creates browning. You know, the delicious crust on bread, the sear on meat, the flavor in roasted coffee.
Yeah.
That's all Maillard.
Right, it's usually the goal. So how does it turn evil in this case?
Well, it's about the specific ingredients involved.
Yeah.
When you have high amounts of asparagine plus those refined sugars we talked about, and then you blast them with that high heat, the Maillard reaction still happens. You still get browning, but it also spins off acrylamide as an unwanted side product. Think of it like getting a really bad sunburn instead of a nice tan, chemically speaking. The process goes too far, generates toxins.
Gotcha. Like a kitchen experiment gone wrong. And it's not just French fries, is it? Though they seem to be the classic example.
Oh, definitely not just fries. It's really pervasive. Think anything processed, starchy, sugary, and browned or baked at high temps. Breakfast cereals. Huge culprits. Crackers, cookies, corn chips, potato chips, obviously.
Even bread, like the crust.
Yep, the crust specifically. Because the edges and the surface hit that 285-degree mark, even the inside stays cooler. And another big one we have to mention, coffee. Roasted coffee.
Oh no, not coffee.
Yeah, it's definitely made using high heat roasting.
Yeah.
Stick with me, there's actually a surprising twist with coffee we'll get to later. A good twist.
Okay, holding out hope for my coffee. Hang on, you mentioned this process is complex. Is acrylamide the end of the story, or does this chemical villain have, like, a sidekick?
Unfortunately, it's more like acrylamide is the opening act. It actually breaks down pretty quickly into another compound. This one's called glycinamide. And the consensus seems to be that glycinamide is, well, Possibly even more problematic.
More problematic.
Yeah. It seems to be the thing that's actually doing most of the heavy lifting when it comes to the cancer risk. Acrylamide starts it, but glycinamide might be the main driver of the actual cell damage.
Seriously. So we have the bad guy, acrylamide, creating an even badder guy, glycinamide. Why isn't glycinamide the thing everyone talks about then?
It's partly because acrylamide is the first easily measurable thing that forms. It's the signal that the toxic process has started. Glycinamide forms later, sometimes even after we've eaten the food, metabolically. So it's harder to track and regulate directly in the food itself. But yeah, when you look at the biological impact, glycinamide seems to be the bigger concern for long-term health effects like cancer.
Yeah.
You can't just test for the first chemical. You have to consider the whole chain reaction.
Wow. Okay. That adds a whole new layer.
And it explains why this is such a big issue now. We're just consuming so many ultra-processed foods. Our diets are dominated by this stuff, which means we're constantly exposed to these processing byproducts.
Yeah, I saw some numbers. They're pretty shocking. Teenagers getting something like 67% of their calories from ultra-processed foods.
67%. It's staggering. Adults are over 50%.
Yeah.
And maybe the most concerning, toddlers. Even toddlers are apparently getting almost half, or 47% of their calories from these kinds of foods. Foods potentially loaded with this stuff.
And we know cancer is what, the second biggest killer globally. We hear about smoking, drinking. But here's this acrylamide and glycinamide duo hiding in breakfast cereal and crackers, and it's cited as a major, often overlooked cancer risk.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating, kind of ironic even, is when you look back historically, particularly at cooking fats, it seems saturated fats actually offer some protection against forming acrylamide.
Wait, what? Saturated fats, the ones we were told for decades were pure evil. They protect against this carcinogen.
It looks that way. Think about old-school McDonald's fries. Before the big fat phobia kicked in around the 90s, they fried them in beef tallow. Tallow is a saturated fat. And even though you had the potato starch, asparagine source, they likely didn't produce nearly as much acrylamide.
Why not?
Because saturated fats are much more chemically stable at high heat. They don't break down or react as easily. They seem to form a sort of protective barrier, preventing that specific reaction between the asparagine and sugars from happening as readily compared to, say, frying in less stable vegetable or seed oils.
So, switching from tallow to vegetable oils, which everyone thought was healthier, actually made fries more likely to contain a carcinogen.
That appears to be one of the unintended consequences, yes.
Yeah.
The focus was so heavy on cholesterol and heart health that the chemical stability aspect and the potential for creating these toxic byproducts during high-heat cooking was completely overlooked. It was a trade-off nobody really understood at the time.
Okay, my head is spinning a little. We've got the bad guy identified, we know its origin story, its even worse sidekick, and we know it's basically taken over the snack aisle. Time for some good news. Please tell me there's good news. How do we fight back? Is there an antidote arsenal?
There definitely are things you can do. It starts right in your own kitchen. First off, temperature. Remember that 295 Fahrenheit danger zone? Just cook things lower and slower whenever possible. If you're baking or roasting essentially starchy things, try keeping the temp below that threshold. It's your first line of defense.
Low and slow. Got it. What else?
The sugar swap we talked about, if you're baking, ditch the refined stuff, the dextrose, glucose syrups, maltodextrin. If you need sweetness, go for natural options like honey, maple syrup, maybe plain cane sugar. That alone disrupts the acrylamide recipe.
Makes sense. Cut out one of the key ingredients for the reaction. And for frying.
If you're going to fry things at high heat, choose those stable saturated fats, tallow, lard, coconut oil, even butter to some extent. They hold up better and seem to reduce the formation of acrylamide compared to most vegetable oils.
Okay, cook low, swap sugars, use stable fats. Now, the coffee question. You promised good news. Don't let me down.
Okay, the coffee hack. It's really counterintuitive, but fantastic news for some. Basically, go dark. The darker the roast, the less acrylamide.
Get out. I always figured darker roast meant like more burnt, more bad stuff.
You'd think so. But light roast coffee can have up to 10 times more acrylamide than a dark roast or an espresso.
10 times? Why?
Because the process for dark roasting involves even higher temperatures, often up around 400 degrees Fahrenheit or more. At those extreme temperatures, acrylamide apparently becomes unstable. It actually breaks down and dissipates.
So you essentially cook the poison out by roasting it longer and hotter?
Pretty much. The intense heat destroys the acrylamide that formed earlier in the roasting process. So that strong, dark, almost burnt flavor is actually a sign of lower acrylamide.
That is genuinely mind-blowing.
Look.
Okay, dark roast or espresso it is. Major life change happening right here. All right, last scenario. What if you're at a party, temptation strikes, and you eat the corn chips? Is there any damage control, like a junk food insurance policy?
There kind of is, yeah. It's about pairing those potentially problematic foods with certain protective foods. Think of it as internal armor.
Armor? What kind of armor? Like eat a side of broccoli with my chips?
Exactly like that, actually. Cruciferous vegetables are fantastic. We're talking kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, arugula. They're rich in sulfur compounds that help your body's natural detoxification pathways grab onto and neutralize toxins like acrylamide and its byproducts.
Okay, sulfur compounds. Got it. Anything else?
Garlic is great for similar reasons. Sprouts, especially broccoli sprouts, are superstars here too.
Yeah.
Also, foods high in vitamin C. Citrus fruits, bell peppers, even fermented stuff like sauerkraut. Vitamin C is a powerful antioxidant and helps your body process and eliminate unwanted chemicals. Oh, and things like green tea and spirulina also contain compounds known to support detoxification.
So basically, flood your system with plants, especially the slightly bitter or pungent ones if you know you've consumed some high heat processed stuff.
That's a pretty good summary, yes.
Yeah.
Give your body the tools it needs to greenhouse.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. So the big takeaway seems to be the real danger often isn't listed on the label, it's created during processing. That deadly combo, specific protein, asparagine, plus refined sugar, plus heat over 285 degrees, creates acrylamide, which then creates the even nastier glycinamide. Yikes.
A hidden chain reaction.
But the defense is going back to basics, right? Whole foods, cooking lower temps, using natural sugars, if any, choosing stable fats like tallow or coconut oil if frying.
Exactly. And embracing the dark side of coffee.
And never underestimating the power of a pile of broccoli sprouts or a squeeze of lemon.
Couldn't have said it better. Simple strategies, big impact.
Okay, so final thought here. If stuff we accidentally create in food processing, like acrylamide and glycinamide, gets slapped with a Class A carcinogen label by, like, everyone who matters, doesn't that kind of force us to ask a bigger question? Maybe we shouldn't just be looking at ingredients lists. Maybe the real focus needs to be on the processes themselves, the temperatures, the refining methods used in making ultra-processed food.
That's a really profound point. If the process is consistently generating known potent carcinogens, should the process itself be regulated differently or classified based on the byproducts it creates? It definitely makes you wonder, what other hidden consequences, what other toxic secrets are lurking in the specific ways we heat, treat, and manufacture our modern food supply? What else don't we know?